Mr. Pickle's gonna be right.
So you guys are way over my head with this stuff, and I'm really happy for you because now that I have you guys, I don't have to read ever because I can just ask you guys questions.
That's right.
So there's a kind of a soft civil war, as it's been called, on the right now. For those of you watching, mid-November 2025, the JQ has gone mainstream. The ZQ has gone mainstream. And particularly because of a couple of key events recently, I guess you could go probably a lot further back, but recent assassination of Charlie Kirk, lots of things kind of coming up to the thing. Nick Fuentes, he's always been prominent for a decade or so, or maybe 5 years at least, but super prominent as of the last couple of months, and then got a kind of we've talked. Matt's definitely analyzed it or whatever, but there's kind of this idea maybe him and Charlie were opposition. They were kind of rivals, if you were. Is that
That's
what it
right.
is?
Yeah,
Rivals,
that's
if you were. And now that Charlie is gone and passed, Nick is almost taking the mantle, and there's this opportunity for him to kind of align himself in some way to be able to not capitalize in like a whatever sort of way,
Cynical.
but in a way that makes sense for lots of people to kind of come into the fold under Nick as the new guy.
All right.
Anyway, so he had this pretty big interview with Tucker, and now everybody's talking about Jews. And so there's this wedge being drawn, or driven between factions on the right, and it's exposing lots of different little mini factions on each side. But it kind of comes down to there's the Jew thing, there's Zionism, but there's also plan trusters and plan not trusters, and people have
AKA
various panicans and plan trusters.
Plan
Everybody's got
trusters.
their reasons. Well, I'll go ahead and start us off. I think a lot of people are just ill-informed on all sides, and then generally, I believe, because I'm pretty low information in general, but I believe in the power of morale and belief and good attitude and self-fulfilling prophecy of not manifestation like in a white girl like
Astrology.
new agey astrology type way, but you can kind of placebo yourself into a lot of great things if you just think like that. And so optimism in general is going to serve you a lot more than pessimism. And so that's where I kind of fall. I plan trust both ironically and unironically. I love Trump because I know we're going to miss him when he's gone. He's funny, he's smart. I don't think he is stumbling into things. I think he knows what he's doing. I think he's an operator. I think he's proven that all throughout his life or whatever. And then I just generally it's better. The outcome that I want in the country and in the world is going to be more likely if I give my loyalty to Trump, no matter how I feel about him or how I feel about his personal beliefs or why he's doing what he's doing. My loyalty is going to make it more likely that I get what I want. That's my take.
Right.
Can you hand me the monster?
Ooh, that monster is empty, and I'm really, really, really sorry. I was only nervously drinking it. I
guess
didn't
I'll
even
have to
need it.
drink more whiskey.
How do we pivot from? How do we tie what we were just talking about into what I just introduced? Somebody take the reins.
Well, I think maybe you start with your critique of whatever with MAGA
of MAGA,
or just
of
how
MAGA,
you
of
feel.
Trump.
What's
Okay.
what's
yeah,
your take?
what's your thoughts on the situation?
Well, so I voted for Trump approximately one time, and it was in the last election.
Approximately one time or
Approximately
definitely
one time. Definitely one time.
Round it down to like 1.4.
I'm rounding down because I'm unhappy with the way things have gone so far.
Ooh.
I voted for him one time because far be it from me to allow a minority woman to be the first president of the United States of America.
Fair.
But yeah, so far I've been definitely less than pleased, mostly because I feel like... How do I want to word it? the reason people were hyped for Trump, especially during this last election cycle, the assassination attempts, the trying to throw him in prison every 25 seconds. I was promised dark MAGA. I was promised war.
Retribution.
Yeah, Rubicon Dawn. This is it. The American Caesar has arrived. And so far, no new wars became bombing Iran, bombing Venezuela, talking about getting involved in Nigeria, more money for Ukraine. And a lot of the heritage American reasons that I voted for him, while they might be a priority of the administration, I know that we're almost a year into the first year, into the first 4 years, the last 4 years.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Who's to say?
Yeah, the main reasons that I think a lot of the base was mobilized to vote for Trump was this old idea of Americana, but in the last 9 months, my perspective has kind of shifted, and now I think that it's almost a good thing that he's not prioritizing the heritage Americans, because it radicalizes those of us primed to be radicalized further for whatever's coming next.
Can I jump in for a second to say what you're claiming might be the good thing about Trump is what Nick Fuentes at some point was saying would have been the good thing about Kamala.
Right. So
is that it's an
a soft way of
accelerant.
getting it. Yeah.
Right.
It's an accelerant.
It's the antithesis that sets the stage for the match to really be struck.
Yeah.
Once and
catalyst.
for all. Finally. Yeah, okay, cool. I don't want to cut you off, but
No, it's okay. I'm done.
Well, I would ask, like, is that, my position, like, I think that I've been in the extremely online right-wing space for a very long time. I do a daily show called The Astrolabe that is it's usually 4 to 6 hours, and I've been deep in the Twitter world for a very, very long time. And I started realizing a few years ago that I was the one that was ahead of the news compared to all of my peers and all the other people, just because everything's happening on X. I've been on there for 16 years now. And I've watched as it emerged into the town square, the place where all the narratives happen, and then watched all the psyops starting to be. I watched the way the old regime would plant stories on Twitter at the time. They would have, I'd see the headlines, the big like zeitgeist moving headlines that if you dug into it, you realized that this was like anonymous accounts replying to headlines on Twitter that they would get turned into. This is characteristic of the entire country. And it's like, well, I wonder where those anonymous accounts came from. I watched the way that the narrative was being crafted in real time using it. And so that was kind of the premise of me starting the show, is that I'm realizing that I've found my way. I've plugged myself into all these different, I'm kind of like a nexus for all these different info vectors, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff that's coming, and I'm starting to make predictions about things that are going to happen, and then those predictions are coming true. So I've realized that I'll talk to people who are not plugged in all the time, and I realize that they're, especially the ones who are really black-pilled, and they're just simply unaware of a lot of the things that have happened, particularly since Trump was reelected. There's been so much that has happened that in my opinion, his success has almost worked against him, and that he's accomplished so many things, he's transformed so many things, that the average person just can't keep up with all of it. If you're not making a full-time job of sitting there tracking all the things that are being changed positively, then your mind just kind of gets bogged down, and then it's easy to over-index on like specific things and miss the context around it. But so like, given that, my recognition of the fact that, just generally speaking, I'm more well-informed than probably 99% of the population, just because of my career now. The majority of the population is not nearly radicalized enough for the types of, to ensure the success of the types of radical moves that I think the most like black-pilled accelerationist type right-wing guys want. Because I'm very much in alignment with them, that I want to see the same type of world that they do, but I think that trying to push that envelope too quickly will actually make it less likely that comes about. We're at this we're in this transitional stage where I've said Trump is the most apocalyptic personage that I've ever seen in the truest sense of the word, and that he, not even intentionally, there's this really bizarre character that he plays that just manages to reveal everything. Everything is being revealed. He forces people to show their hands, and I don't know. I don't think that this is something he's doing consciously and intentionally, and he's 5D chessing this. He's just sort of embodied by this mandate from heaven that he's serving this role at this particular point in time where he's forcing this transition to happen. Right. But it has to happen in a particular way, and there's electoral considerations for that. And I think that I think people. It's easy to go, democracy is fake and gay, and you shouldn't care about what the average person thinks. But at the same time, what the average person thinks it is a variable that has to be considered. The posture, the sentiment of the average person, because you do need to have at whatever point. I'm a subscriber to elite theory very much.
Yeah, same.
People are going to follow their elites, but that depends upon them perceiving them as elites. That perceiving the people will follow power. They will naturally follow the strong man. But the strong man has to actually be able to not only reveal himself as the strong man, but actually sustain that strong man-ness. And he also has to have the desire, the recognition of what time it is, and the desire to embody that strong man role. And if there is not a man like that presently, I think Trump is the closest thing we have to that. I don't think that there is another alternative.
Yeah, I think America, as it exists right now, is in desperate need of new elites.
Yes.
We have, for as many elites, college-educated, PhD, political science wackos as we have very few elites.
Yes.
They're all from the merchant caste. And
yep.
Traditionally, the merchant caste can't be elite.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's part of what makes up.
It's parasitic upon the elites.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Can you for the dummies in the room, can you guys explain the merchant class? Is that just a euphemism for Jew?
No.
No.
But
because I've heard people use it like that.
It's
no.
I think I can probably explain it kind of quickly. If you hail back to prior to the emergence of the merchant class, prior to having largely globalized or at least extensively regionalized trade networks and travel between different nations and stuff, people were identified with their soil, with their local regions. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have lots of intermixing between different types of people. You, by and large, just see the same type of person and encounter the same type of person, and generationally passed on from one generation to the next would be the same type of person. You were a potter because your father was a potter and your child's going to be a potter. These were very rigid. The merchant class emerged as a rootless person that actually
or trans.
Yeah,
regional.
and they kind of exist in the negative spaces between everyone else. They navigate between all the different people.
Is that why they're parasitic? Because they're not rooted in the soil, rooted in the good of the people.
Right. They're sort of filling in the negative space, which means ultimately they begin to develop this sort of parasitic relationship, and then if you think about someone, if you're like a merchant and you have a ship and you go traveling from country to country to country or whatever, and at the time a country was not this sort of like democratic institution where you could just go sell to any Tom, Dick, or Harry. You would have to have like a personal relationship or get the sign off of like the local king, and you're negotiating with the king, and the king is negotiating on behalf of his people. As a merchant, you're going to have a strong incentive to break down that relationship, because if you break down the relationship, the bonds between the king and his people, then you're expanding your market, your total addressable market. Now all of a sudden you don't have to. If you piss off the king and he's like, yeah, you're not coming here, you're not doing business with any of my people, well, okay, you're SOL until he gets replaced or something.
So were there like unions of merchants
this is where like the Freemasons come from.
Yes.
Because you get guilds that work to protect their tradecraft and then it evolves into initiatic rites
guild?
and things like that.
Right.
This
Like
is
a
giving,
Which emerges into a sort of it's kind of like if you think of statecraft as initially being something that's bound to a particular region and a particular people, once you get the merchant guilds, it's a form of statecraft that's abstracted away from particular people and particular
When
places.
everybody on every podcast or whatever says something about the merchant class, that's what they're thinking of. They have all that context.
Not necessarily. A lot of people will use merchants, like the happy merchant. They'll
well,
use
you
it
have
as
to
a,
watch what they're doing with their hands, because if they're doing this when they say it, they mean one thing.
Well, and then here's the other thing:
I
is
see.
that when you have a particular people who do not have their own soil, who are
Diaspora.
themselves diasporized and don't, they see themselves as
Then
being
it's
as not
perfect.
belonging with everyone
It's
else.
the
They're
perfect-
If
gonna naturally
animated-
glom onto those sorts of industries.
So I'm thinking of a bunch of little iron shavings and a magnet, and I'm thinking that if a person becomes an iron
those are
shaving,
coin clippings.
yes, and they're animated by the magnetism of the spirit of Judas that is unknowingly or unwittingly serving Mammon at the sacrifice of Logos, then they're going to become, like, it defines itself by, it is what it does. You know what I'm saying? So when you talk about the merchant class, the big question, and we don't have to pivot to this because it would be a pretty jarring transition, but in the talk of Matt Walsh Presents What is a Jew, which, by the way, I recommend.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Coming soon to every theater near you. Universal release, worldwide release, Matt Walsh Presents What is a Jew. The question is, what is the genetic and heritage and genealogical component? Because when I say it is what it does, a Jew is as a Jew does, a merchant is as a merchant does, and then that defines you as the coin clipping, shaving of iron that's magnetized around, like you become part of the merchant class because that's how you're born. It's way bigger than you can just describe it in one linear fashion in like a causal relationship, like this leads to this leads to this. It's obviously multifaceted, environmental, genetic, and cultural, etc. And yet, a person doesn't say, well, I found out that I was extremely thrifty, ambitious, shrewd, high-end group preference, whatever. Then I realized I needed to convert to Judaism. It's normally the other way around where you go, yeah, my parents, my grandparents, they took us to synagogue, and I also happened to have had a $60,000 savings by the time I was 8 years old, and I was running multiple whatever. It was very passive income. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't want to take this thing far afield from where we're going because it wasn't so Jew-focused.
I've got follow-up questions.
Right.
I have follow-up answers.
I was going to say, this is
And
going to go
they're
all
not-
over the
they're
place.
Not super rabbit trail questions, but
I'll relinquish back to the group, but I really like the format of these two titans giving each other their back and forth, and the smooth brains in the middle, maybe
this is
drooling
great.
a little bit,
Yeah, I've
and
been
then we'll
drooling.
interject and we'll ask those.
So we've got
dummy
merchant
questions.
class. You mentioned elite.
Mm-hmm.
When I think of elite, I think of the alien on Halo 3, the Arbiter.
Disclosure, I've never played Halo.
Really?
Really?
We gotta get you
guy.
We gotta.
tight little butt plays. All right,
I was
so
a
tell me
PlayStation
about
kid.
elite.
All right, pause. We're gonna play Halo for a minute.
So when you say elite, I think of again. This is all just like I've never bothered to like really think about it or look it up or whatever. But I've heard it and I get it intuitively, whatever. But is there an actual definition? What makes a person or a group of people elite? Is it education? Is it aristocracy? Is it something in their blood? What is an elite?
So-
the elite class. What does that mean?
So, again, modernity makes Jews of us all. So we're all kind of this disconnected diaspora of merchant class today.
That's amazing.
Um,
Who said that?
I can't remember. I wish I could.
Right.
But, you know, if you ask Alex Jones what the elites are, it's Bill Gates and this Washington establishment.
That's not what elite traditionally meant. He's just talking about the
right,
he's
yeah,
talking about
whatever.
the shadow.
okay,
That's
so
why it
so
gets
the-
confusing.
yeah,
is
so the
'cause people say the
traditional
elites.
would be the aristocratic class.
Yeah.
So it harkens back to ancient Greece. They were one of the first
I've
aristocracies.
seen the Aristocats. What's the difference?
It's close. It's close. So an aristocrat, you would have it essentially starts with, like all things, from the steppe peoples.
What's that mean?
Well, what that means?
It's the area around Ukraine, and when their civilization was starting, they were the first people to tame horses. And when you have horses,
Back in the day?
yeah, way back in the day,
Wow.
it was like the other
And
day.
that
actually.
must have been
He's
like
pulling a Putin.
It'll be a full 6-hour lecture on it.
but that must have been a major boon for their
Oh, man.
industry.
It actually was at the extreme detriment of all their neighbors, because when you
Yep.
have horses and no one else does, guess what you get to do?
Fuck everyone up.
Exactly. And so what they did is they would tame these horses, and then they would go on cattle
Like
raids.
everyone.
Yes. And that's where you get this Indo-Aryan invasion, which is illegal to talk about in India.
Indo.
Shut up. Do
Indo.
not redeem.
Cairo.
So how when
Cairo,
people say
that's in
Indo-European,
Yeah, it's talking about these steppe invaders who quite literally conquered.
and that's just a type of person. Indo is like a
Indo-European specifically. It was
Okay.
it was the steppe peoples, traditionally called the Scythians, who conquered from the steppe to modern day England down to modern day India, the Hindu Kush region.
that's like
Yeah, into
Very-
China. That's why you see these burial mounds all over the place. Why you see
Okay.
pyramids all over the place.
okay. And so the steppe, when you say the steppe people,
It's
that's
that
the
it's
people.
that region in Ukraine, the Scythians, the Indo-Europeans who conquered the Proto-Europeans, and
I'm freaking Tarzan
they're
watching a bunch of projectors
Yeah.
slide.
I'm just trying to figure out, is this why I hate my stepdad?
it could be.
I don't know,
So,
Steph.
so basically, what happened was when they would conquer, they ate traditionally meat because they were on horseback and they were conquering, like a diaspora of farmlands. And these farmers traditionally ate grain. It led to smaller stature, weaker forms.
Yeah.
And when you eat meat and you have high protein, and you are
Milk.
milk was a huge thing. It allows you to conquer. And so the aristocratic populations of ancient Europe were the progeny of these steppe peoples who formed into elite war bands, and they primarily organized their family houses around essentially breeding cults. And it allowed them to mate select for the strongest, most
Yeah.
powerful offspring.
Yeah,
They
sure.
were eugenicists.
So
Yeah.
is this stuff theoretical or
No,
people's
no.
best guess?
No,
Okay.
this is you
So
can
let me-
look at genetic records.
So
And
let
this
me
isn't-
make-
this isn't any like this is
This is fact.
Okay, and I'll take your word for it. But you know what I really think is interesting about this is stay with me, because I'm going to draw an analogy and it might get pretty. I might lose you, but hopefully not. In the same way that people
bottle.
don't pay attention to the Middle Ages,
No,
and they're
prepare
just
it.
like, and then blah 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 blah, and then now we're here. In that same way of just ignorance, like, okay, well, there was the ancient Sumerian peoples, and then there was Martin Luther King, and then, you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah.
We
in
went
this-
from Göbekli Tepe to
Right.
to Adam
It's like
Smith.
That's how.
It's
but
like
that's-
studying church history in a reform school.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's okay. So there was Pentecost, and then there was Pastor
Martin.
Bobby. He was Ricky's
And that's the one true
granddad.
church, and if
Yeah,
you don't
and that's
attend, you're
the-
going to hell.
Right.
Yeah.
In the same way, most the big broad middle part of the bell curve, normie science enthusiast, I love science, can tell you about the evolutionary. You know, all this thing crawled out and wiggled around a little bit, and then it got selected for having legs or whatever. And then fast forward, and we have
Black people?
yes, right, or we have ancient Egyptians or whatever. And I personally, and we're not going to get into this or whatever, I just go, I don't need to believe in macroevolution. I don't need to, like, you can't compel me. I just don't. I'm going to be smooth brain and correct. I just believe that God made people distinct from animals, period, right? We can disagree. I'm not saying anyone does. But it's funny that the average person out there is going to be like, yeah, like the people, or, you know, organisms, mammals came a quadrillion years ago from this. And then the next thing they know, they're talking about, they know nothing of like they're really interested in a theoretical evolution of species, and yet almost no one that I've ever encountered in life has any interest or knowledge of what you're talking about, which is how do the nations arise from the difference between some goofball hopping on the back of a horse as a gag, as a prank, basically. And then him leading all of his progeny into dominating his neighboring people groups. I've never heard that.
And this is all like somewhere between Adam and Eve and Moses, right?
This would be...
Because my only
BC,
context
probably.
of ancient
Prince
stuff
of Egypt,
is like,
they were racing the horses at the
Middle
beginning
East.
of the
No,
movie.
so this is before that, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
that's what I because
It'd be
because if you think
post-Noah.
about the Egyptians and chariots and all this kind of stuff,
Well, like
like my
4,000
only
BC?
Well, actually, it'd be pre-Noah because the what do you call them? The royal Scythians are typically equated with the Nephilim.
Oh.
So the
And you get, like
Nephilim-
the Rh negative factor blood typically comes from them, and so like not to self-dox, but I'm O negative, and that is every elite family.
You got the blue blood?
in the West has O neg. Something
Wow.
to think about. Yeah.
So, okay. So we've got elite. Well, translate that fast forward to what it means now when you say we
Right.
need new elites.
Yeah, we need new elites. So the European project, coming from that time of the steppe, is you get the old guard that stays behind to guard the empire, to watch the empire, to grow the empire, and to watch over the peasant class, and then you get the strongest, youngest stock spreading out to conquer for the empire. And that's why we have America. It was the youngest, strongest stock of France, England, Spain, and Italy going forth to conquer and claim for their home empires. And so we get here and we have, kind of to talk about what we were talking about in the cold open, is there a mechanism for revitalizing this within Christianity? Because by the time you get this dispersion from Europe of this populace into America, now the people who traditionally never would have had a home because they would have been nomadic and conquering have a home for the first time, and so they start to revert into the sort of dying imperialistic ways of the old world, where they grow old and now there's no barbarians left. What could be a mechanism for this change? How do you reinvigorate an elite out of a culture, religion, and people group that sees those three things as antithetical to what they are when it's what they always have been? Like, how do you remind them of who they are?
How do you de-freebase and everything?
Yeah.
How do you de-domesticate
Yeah, how do you...
people? Remind them that they were the ones who domesticated.
Yeah, and you... Essentially, you need to, without going full tiny mustache here, because we have a very dysgenic society. Traditionally, you never would have protected, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Like, I think part of what makes Europe so great is that you get this old world barbarian, like this pagan king of, you go and tell the king of Sparta, hey, if you convert to Christianity, you'll have everything you want in the afterlife. And he says, well, I already have everything I want here. If I don't have something that I want, I'll just kill that guy and take it from him. And then you get the sacrificial nature of Judaism, and you get the sacrificial warrior king for the greater good of his people. And that is what built Europe, specifically. So how do you integrate that into a land, America, that is anti-cultural in its instantiation?
They thought they had you under their spell. But now you can have all the white pill power right in the palm of your hand. Introducing the Goyan, the Gamma Oscillation Yield Interface Module, your direct connection to EWBSX, the cyber bully, the only radio station that really gets it. It's peaty, it's high T, and it's always playing bangers. Plus, you'll never be blackpilling again with plenty of high thumos sound bites and regular doses of timeless wisdom from the cyber bully himself. Available in 2 frequencies. Alpha Mode for the untamed stallion, and Family Mode for sensitive ears. Disintegrate the limbs, the grifters, and the subversives. Tune in to the sounds of Eternal White Boy Summer today on your very own Goyim device. EWBSX, the Cyber Bully. Radio for our guys. But the power of the Goyim in the palm of your hand today. Available for download on all Apple and Android devices.
There's a thesis that I've had that people who listen to the Astrolabe are probably almost tired of hearing about this, but one of my baseline theses is that it's very popular to say that the American empire is in its downfall, and my thesis is that the American empire has barely begun. That America, you have to get into some kind of wonky geopolitics and economics and finance and stuff with this, but America hasn't even had control over its own currency, while it could even have a claim to being a global power until just within the past few years. Are you familiar with LIBOR and SOFR?
Yeah.
Okay, so the transition from LIBOR to SOFR means that, like, for the first time, America actually has both a claim to being a global hegemon and also, at least in theory, has domestic control of its own currency, meaning now America can actually begin to build itself as an empire. Prior to this, we've been a potential empire held hostage by foreign interests. Mm-hmm. And those interests have been parasitizing upon the continent and the people of America. Mm-hmm. And basically deluding us into hating ourselves for being Americans and feeling bad about being American, and throughout this whole period, there hasn't even been a definition of what is an American. There's all these different sects of Americans. There's the South, and then there's the Yankees, and then there's the West, and then there's like the mountain people, and there's the Appalachians, and then there's the Southerners, and there's a wide range of people, but there isn't like this really clear, like, I think we're going through this process of ethnogenesis where the actual American identity is beginning to emerge and instantiate itself on the world. And if you were to take like an empire and like analogically compare it as like a human lifespan, I think America is like in its adolescence. So it was born, it's been growing up, it's starting to go through, it's going through puberty right now. What we're experiencing is America as a human person going through puberty. And it's going to attain like adult full imperial status, maybe somewhere between more accelerated, maybe 30 years from now, less accelerated, maybe 75 years from now, somewhere in that window. That's when it's actually going to attain imperial status. It's going to become the actual empire. Mm-hmm. We've been living in the dying husks of the so-called British Empire. Yeah. And that British Empire hasn't even really been British for a long time. And so the character of, in the same way that the British Empire being a mercantile naval empire based on colonialism that has its particular characteristics that define it. Mm-hmm. The American Empire is going to be sort of an echo of that. It's going to have some of the similar characteristics, but it's also going to be differently constructed because Americans are not Europeans. Right. We're different people, so we're going to we do and will govern differently than Europeans do. Mm-hmm. So to me, what I see, a lot of people, I think, and this may be like a dividing line, maybe between the black pillars and the white pillars. A lot of people see like, oh, America is dying, and I'm like, I think America is being born. I think America is emerging, and so all the tempest and everything that we're going through now is sort of kind of like birthing pains or like growing pains going through puberty.
But isn't that necessarily true if you say that, again, with the not the JQ per se, but the question of identity of what, like, the word symbol of Jew, like, what is it or whatever. If it's nebulous and it's just defined by self-identification, isn't it true that if something will necessarily emerge from the mayhem and we still call it America, then yeah, America will persist and rise from the ashes or whatever. But what it is really what we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Because nominally, if it's America, it's America. If they rename the thing, then you go, America died. But that doesn't really matter.
Yeah, well, you saw that in ancient Rome after Caesar and the Roman Republic had died and had morphed into.
They named it spaghetti.
That was about 500 years later.
Yeah. Well, 400 years later, they started doing.
Well, they had the Caesar salad.
Sorry, go ahead.
But yeah, so they still called it the SPQR, or the Roman Republic, and they still held to the senatorial naming conventions and things like that, even though the empire that followed Caesar's revolution and even the senatorial republic phase that followed the kingly Rome, because Rome did have about 500 years of kings before it formed a republic, out of the aristocratic families that made up the court of that time period. It called itself Rome the whole time. Mm-hmm. So America could very well undergo that sort of transformation. We've never had a king, so when you hear American monarchists talk about some kind of return, it's not going to happen. We've never had a king. There's nothing to return to there.
What I do think is possible is to have, we might call it something like unitary executive, or we are. I think America is undeniably much more commercial in character. I mean, it's corporate. It is a corporation.
Yeah.
So having a CEO, like a national executive, I think that's one of the things that Trump has actually made a lot of progress toward, is instantiating the concept of the unitary executive, which I think I've come full circle kind of on the Constitution, where I used to think, I was like, oh, Constitution, and I was like, Constitution's fake and gay, and then I was like, actually there's quite a lot of brilliance in the construction of the Constitution, in that it's the fact that it's kind of, that the three branches are set in tension with one another, and none of them are given precedence, is actually, there's kind of a brilliance to it, in that you can remain within the bounds of the Constitution ostensibly, but you can have a rule of one over the other. Yeah. So you can actually have the true unitary executive that treats this kind of borrowing from Yarvin, that treats the judiciary and the Congress as advisory. Right. But you have to have the will of the people. You have to have that populist, charismatic leader who is truly bought in with the leader, in a similar way that a successful king was. Right. The successful king was the representative of the people with respect to, that kind of created that tension with respect to the kind of jockeying aristocratic class, that he would force the aristocratic class to bend their will toward him, because otherwise I'll unleash the people on you. Mm-hmm. Right. There's kind of that tension that I think is beginning to emerge and develop again.
Yes, and are you familiar with the works of Bertrand de Juvenel?
Yeah.
So he has this thesis on high-low versus the middle.
Yeah.
And the way he ends it is infinitely frustrating, because he's unwilling to go to where his conclusions present him, and it kind of falls back on this Lockean Enlightenment thesis, and it's very frustrating.
But, of course. We all know.
I got that part, yeah.
Yeah, we understand.
He has this thesis of what's happening, and full disclosure, I'm a Spenglerian when it comes to civilizational cycles, so I view the American empire as part of this broader Western world, diaspora project, and the project is in decline, and America's the last phase of that. We can talk about that later. But this high-low versus the middle, so what you get is the middle class in the economic zone known as the United States of America. The middle class is the alternative elite. And so because America has no true aristocratic stock in it, we have Silicon Valley, and we have
Paris Hilton.
Paris Hilton, great example.
Thank you.
You have
Jimmy Eat World.
Jimmy World.
not quite a Paris Hilton. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
What they do is the elites, because they don't want to be usurped by this middle class, and here I'm talking more of an Alex Jones elite rather than
Shadow elite.
yeah, the shadow elite rather than
Would you say that's the point of democracy, is to make the elite in the shadow?
yeah,
In a lot of the ways, yeah.
and kind of like
Obscures the elite.
yeah,
Obscure,
yeah,
yeah.
it does obscure the elite. But what you get is this mechanism where those at the top of this pyramid fund and ally with the bottom of the pyramid because it creates a larger power base from which they're able to draw their derivatives, and that's why you see so much hype around infinite third world coming here, is because it gives them a base of infinite power against that middle rung of alternative elites, the middle class. And I totally forgot where I was going with that. But
That's pretty good
You
in
said
itself, though, because
civilization
I've
was
never
like-
seen that model that you're saying. You use the hordes against the threat, so you keep your low IQ, unfocused masses. You leverage that against the people who might have the will to displace you in your elite status or whatever.
and I think that's truly what is boiling down in this right-wing civil war is, are we going to form our own coalition of high-low versus the middle on the ruling class, or are we, as heritage stock Americans, going to say, no, send the lower caste home, we have a right to rule in our own country? And so it's kind of this divergence of power structure. Which way are we going to go with it?
How would the first work? High-low, like our own version of that.
Essentially, you would have sympathizers who currently occupy the American government sympathizing with heritage Americans, and then you'd get like an army of rednecks.
All the white trash.
Yeah.
That sounds cool.
It's funny. I was just called out recently in a video as being representative of the MAGA chuds who are part of our one faction that see this breakout happening right now with Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes as being like a plot to split apart the GOP, and that this is a distraction from everything, which is very funny because I'm very well on the record that I just unashamedly I adore Tucker Carlson. I think he is the man can do no wrong to me.
Great kisser.
And
Great
I
laughing,
also I also
Three worst impressions of Tucker laughing.
he's a singular character.
Mickey Mouse.
Mickey
It's Mickey Mouse, yeah. And
It's the Jews, Pluto.
If you ask the original Walt Disney,
Since,
he would-
Yeah, right.
since we have a quick laugh break, I just want to shoehorn this in. It was a bit. I was showing our friend Andrew that I was the retard in our midst whenever he said an army of rednecks, and I said, that sounds pretty cool. That was a bit.
okay.
It was a trap.
and it wouldn't actually be an army of rednecks. It would be an army of those who buy into the American ideal, Americana, whether you're Mexican, black, gay, like kind of like the whole groper war we saw
Yeah,
in
yeah.
2017.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, why is
Propositional
there
America?
why is there a gay black man on the stage of this conservative
Because
event?
I don't want to
He's
totally.
fiscally conservative.
You were on the way to something.
Yeah, he was, but I
Yeah, so I think the Tucker Nick interview is I mean, it's obviously the inciting incident
But
for
it's not-
this,
they don't even-
this sort of thing. And it's funny, so I've been on my show, I've been saying for probably 3 or 4 months now that Nick Fuentes was, I said, I've had multiple times in the past where I've intentionally pissed off the groypers so I can draw them out so I can block them all because I can't stand them. But I've also met and known a lot of guys who are groypers who are not who are not representative of the the typical people you would associate with groypers, which is a bunch of really obnoxious brown guys.
Yeah.
And I've known a lot of guys who are married with children, who are devout Christians, who listen to Nick, and they're like, he's one of the few who's for all of his flaws, he's one of the few. It feels like one of the few voices of our generation who's actually speaking honestly for our plight, our struggle, you might say.
Mein Kampf.
Exactly. I don't know how you say "our" in German,
I
but
also don't.
yeah. And I said probably 3 or 4 months ago, I said I've kind of listened to Nick off and on, because like when he's on, and there's no one better, and when he's not, it's just like sticking knives in my ears. So I've been kind of listening to him off and on, and I started noticing a change in tone for him. And I was thinking, I was like, he's moving past his mid-20s, kind of into his later 20s. He's kind of at the age where men start to sober up a little bit and start to kind of take stock of themselves. He's been a shit poster and everything, but you can only do that for so long before you have to start. Like, are you just going to be a shit poster for the rest of your life, or are you going to start getting serious? And there's a real opportunity here for him to capitalize on, and I think he's extremely intelligent and a very savvy operator. So I've been saying for several months, like, we're going to see a pivot from him very soon. He's gonna turn on part of his audience, or whether he does it explicitly or he just makes a turn and it turns off a bunch of his audience, and they say that he sold out. And I said we're even going to see him come full circle on the Jews probably and start saying not all Jews and this sort of thing. I was saying this a few months back, and I never imagined that it was going to that Charlie Kirk was going to be assassinated and that was going to be a pretext for it. But then it started happening, and I don't know if he's doing this cynically or if he's like capitalizing on this opportunity to do something he was kind of already on the way to. Mm-hmm. And I kind of lean toward the latter. I think he is sincere. I don't think you could do what he does without being sincere.
I agree. I think the Charlie Kirk assassination specifically kind of woke him up.
If I was Nick Fuentes and Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck on on TV like that and everyone saw it, it would scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, he's also already had an assassination.
Yeah, he already had
exactly.
multiple assassinations.
So I think that the when Nick and when Tucker said something about like this kind of like whiny little gay guy in his mom's basement or something like that, I said this is obviously, this isn't Tucker just kind of spouting off. This is both of them are very savvy media operators. They know how the game works. This is Tucker extending a hand to Nick. Tucker is basically telling Nick, let's open up lines of communication here. And it actually turns out they actually had lines of communication in the past, but this is like they're beginning to do a thing here. They're working an angle here. And I said at the time everyone was like, "Oh, Tucker fired off and then Nick totally owned him back." And I was like, "No, Tucker opened up the door for Nick to fire back and for them to start this whole thing." And I said within a couple of months Nick and Tucker are going to do an interview together. My expectation was that it would be Alex Jones would host the two of them together. It turned out it was just Tucker hosting Nick. I think that Tucker is one of the few remaining, I think, really sincere representatives of old school Northeastern WASP America. The actual high culture WASP.
Yeah.
The people who genuinely believed in the American project and loved America as America.
Yeah.
For all of their warts, for all of its warts, like he's one of the last few voices that represents that. Nick is probably the most distilled, authentic voice representing young men under 40 in America today, really no matter what color they are. Mm-hmm. And there's kind of a certain sense in which America has become so multicultural that it's kind of and maybe not multicultural, but multiracial. It's going to be multiracial to a certain extent going forward because I think there's too many political and economic pressures that are forcing America to function as a single political unit covering an entire continent.
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be some sort of balkanization or breakup. There's too many major national security reasons why it's going to be forced to remain as a single entity. Yeah. And that entity is invariably, it's going to have to be multiracial because it just can't not be.
Yeah.
So I think what I see with Tucker and Nick working their angle the way they are is, it's funny that I have this attributed to me that I think that this is an op to break the GOP and it's a bad thing and it's a distraction, because I have the exact opposite opinion. I think that it is an op to break the GOP and it's extremely welcome. Yeah. And I think that it's actually it is. I think a lot of people misread JD Vance. I think that JD Vance is probably actively in on this. He's well aware of what's going on, and he's fully on board with it. Because I think JD Vance is probably much closer to. He's definitely very close to Tucker, and I think he's much closer to Nick, psychologically or like in his own mind. If you really got him, like, cornered him and forced him to. I think he's much closer to Nick than he's able to publicly display. So I think that this is them working an angle to actually kind of affect that. You got Nick representing the sort of downtrodden, downcast, oppressed lower class of disenfranchised young men, and you've got Tucker trying to speak to his Anglo aristocratic class, hailing back to the unfortunately maligned robber barons who are actually great patriots of their country. They're kind of, Tucker's trying to revive that old patriotic WASP spirit, like Timothy Mellon, like that sort of character. And then Nick is sort of the lower class, working class white man kind of spirit being united in one person to force the GOP rightward or break it. It's going to be one or the other.
Have you guys ever read The Secret Destiny of America by Manly P. Hall?
I have not.
No.
I listened to the first half of it, the first chapter on audiobook recently.
What did you glean?
Well,
How
I'm glad
was
you
it?
asked.
Tell us.
He was a Freemason, and he bared all their secrets, and he wrote some books, and he was like collected a vast library of esoteric and mystical texts from
You
all
need
around
to do
the
this in
world.
a Scottish accent.
I would, but I get scared. I start getting scared. I start to
scare
pee
yourself?
my pants.
Oh no.
Anyway, no, I just thought because there was dead air for about a quarter of a second that I would ask you guys about The Secret Destiny of America by Manly P. Hall. But that's for next episode.
So, something that I was thinking about a long time ago while we were talking, you were going down a road about kind of the current whatever, and it was, oh, that's what it is. You were saying, as an individual, you're particularly well informed because you're on all the time in the right places and you're starting to see things before they happen or whatever. Okay, cool. Now, all of the online right wing whatever who are always on Twitter whatever and feel the same way and see this, have the same sentiments and the same worldviews and the same desires. A lot of them, I feel like one of the biggest things is that they underestimate how small they are.
Mm-hmm.
How very few that, like, in a country of, how many? 300 billion people there's here?
Yeah. 600.
600
So, yeah,
billion
600
people.
billion, yeah.
In a
6
country,
trillion.
in a continent with 600 billion people, that online right that believes what they believe so fiercely and thinks that Donald Trump was here to be their hero, and now since he's not being the white horse riding whatever that's gonna kill everyone,
Gandalf the White.
since he's not doing that right away in year one of his second term before these midterms or whatever, therefore he has abandoned us. He was never real in the first place. We've been duped. I'm scared of being duped. I'm scared, right? And whatever. And then I don't think, like, man, why doesn't they just kill all of the Browns? Or why doesn't they just get everyone back to Africa's? Or why doesn't they just, like,
Why don't
do
we
all
just
these
rape
things?
all the women?
Why don't we just rape everyone, right? So all of the people who are chimping, always be chimping all the time, I don't think they understand that there's real normal people out there that are just going to their jobs and drinking sweet teas and going to McDonald's and having their kids. And they think that they either think that this online thing is much bigger than it actually is. It's not just some weird corner.
Yeah.
But
But
or
I
they
think
think that
I think they both overestimate their. There's kind of maybe a paradox here in that they overestimate their significance or their relevance or their representation of the broader culture, but they also underestimate their potential power.
yeah.
That if this has
They
been
could
my,
be elites.
This
They
has
could
been
be
my
the
campaign
elite
against the
informers.
always be chimping thing, and this like this it's this real neurotic insecurity of any time that we get a single soundbite or the announcement of a single policy or Trump says one thing, that could possibly in some way, if you twist it around in just the right way, could be construed in a bad way. Now all of a sudden we need to melt down and scream and panic because it's all over. That becomes a reinforcing characteristic, and it's extremely feminine. It's and not feminine in a good way.
Hysterical.
It's feminine
woman.
in a bad way.
Allow me to do something revolutionary here. The Fell For It Again award traditionally has been interpreted as I fell for the dangling bait, and I got the bait and switch. I got set up with an expectation, and it failed me. But
tried to kick the football again, Charlie.
Right, they tried to kick the football again, Charlie Brown. But you're saying that they're wearing a different Fell For It Again award, that they fall for...
They reacted emotionally when they should have been cool and calm.
So they're wearing the correct ribbon, but they misinterpret who has bestowed it. That's interesting to me. And now let me play devil's advocate, because I'm very prone to this because of my smooth brain. Like, as if someone blew my shit smooth off. Let me bring it back down to earth. I'm fully going to embody the character, so I'm just going to say it like it is from my character. All right.
Say with your chest, nigga.
Scene, yeah. Nigger. You made it. Yeah, listen. So let me embody that devil's advocate fully right now, okay? Trump didn't have to say, yes, we gotta have 600 billion more Jeets and 600 Ching Chongs tomorrow, because there's not, and you guys can't imagine how smart and capable they are, but you are a lowly American tard, and you just can't do it. You can't make the special chips to guide the missiles. You can't make the computers to make AI furry porn. You can't do it. We need the Jeets. We need the Chongs.
We need the porn.
He basically, I'm doing devil's advocate, but it seems like he just said that, and then Laura Ingraham said, well, surely you're our audience wants a little more nuance. Surely you don't think that we need this 600 trillion Jeets,
you're kind of
sand Jews, or whatever the word is, right?
Well, there was two. You're kind of blending two separate parts of that. There was two major points in that conversation that caused everyone to just fucking lose their shit and melt down and go completely crazy. One was the H-1Bs. One was the 600,000 Chinese students.
Right. So it's the double whammy, and I'm telling you, smooth, man. I'm smooth.
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying this is how everybody received it.
Why not? Can we at least say it stands to like. Your eyes do not deceive you. It does appear to be reason for chimping, if not blackpilling. So then let's meet it where it is, rather than being like, if only you were high enough IQ to understand the true game that's being played. Because guess what? Most people aren't.
You don't even have to be high enough IQ. You literally just have to listen to beyond just the single sentence that was highlighted and quoted in all of the tweets.
Okay.
So there's two separate issues. The
if
first
it's been editorialized, that's a really good answer. But
okay. Let me lead off by saying that. So what I was saying before about the internet right wing being both like overestimating our importance and significance, but also underestimating our potential power. It's very obvious, and it has been for this almost this entire administration, that there are clearly people within the administration very close to the levers of power who are directly pandering to us in ways that only we would hear and understand. Mm-hmm. Like the DHS account, the Border Patrol account, the White House account, like explicitly using our memes, explicitly pandering to the single little corner of like racist, anti-Semite, Nazi fascists on Twitter who have been this little hive mind for a long time. It's very obvious that they are directly tapped into us, whether it's because they're using our memes to like signal to us and communicate to us, or because whenever we all start like buzzing around a particular issue, very shortly after that we get statements from the administration directly addressing that issue. So we have people within or immediately adjacent to the administration who are tapped into our little subculture and are sympathetic and wanting to align to the best degree that they can. So then so let's address this Laura Ingraham interview. So first of all, I mean, at the outset, I would say, since when is Fox News going to all of a sudden be immigration restrictionist and skeptical of H-1Bs? That should set off some alarm bells. If all of a sudden Laura Ingraham is like, well, hold on a second, it doesn't seem like you're restrictionist enough on H-1Bs.
Yeah, literally, she used to date Dinesh D'Souza.
Yes. Oh. So if you have a Fox News reporter who's all of a sudden like, well, hold on a second, don't you want to cancel the whole H-1B program?
Trump,
this
you're
sounds
not
like a
base
trap.
enough?
Right. That should set off your alarm bells.
So
if you have any
saying-
media literacy, you should be like, hold on a second, what's happening here? This is clearly an attempt to try to bait something. Second of all, now there's these two separate issues. The first one is, I'll do the Chinese students one first.
Do that second, because I have something I want to say about it.
Wait,
Okay.
I'm just imagining, though, before you get into it, you are the first person to... You're not suggesting this, because it's very schizo-brained, but the concept has just occurred to me for the first time that Trump could be playing the hero and the heel in an oscillating back-and-forth fashion because he has Vince McMahon literally writing his...
Linda McMahon is the
work.
Secretary of Education.
And if she's been in the kayfabe game long enough to be like, how do we bring this new parsed out Overton window to the people, to the boomer masses? We need to get Laura Ingraham playing the pro-based whatever.
No, I think what it is
That's too wild for me to believe.
Is that there are...
He's saying they know what will get us champions.
Exactly.
In a bad way. They're trying to provoke something that's going to be
yes.
bad.
They're trying to drive a wedge between Trump and his base. Because they know the hot button issues for the base that are going to get the base to bail out on Trump. So they're trying to drive a wedge between Trump and his most plugged in, always online base.
But Maddie, Fox News is the Republicans. I vote for them, so I don't understand.
Republicans are gay.
Yeah.
I'm playing
the Republic. Yeah, the Republicans
doing a bit.
I'm playing the ultra retard, so you can really reel it in.
The Republican Party is a vehicle to the extent that it exists.
7 times a day, whenever me and Justin are hanging out around people, I'm always like, he's doing a bit. It's a bit, guys.
Schrodinger's bit. Yeah. Okay, so you want me to do the Chinese student second, so I'll do the Chinese student second. The H-1B thing first.
All right.
Especially if you listen to the clip that was clipped out, it was very selective. It was very clever the way they clipped it out because you didn't get the immediately preceding context. The immediately preceding context was just talking about immigration in general. And she says the thing about H-1B and she says like you can't it's a problem to have the H-1B program where you have foreigners coming in and undermining the wages of American workers. And he says, "Yes, I agree." And this is the president who issued an executive proclamation declaring the H-1B program an existential matter of national security and recommended and directed RICO investigations for H-1B abuse because it is a matter of national security undermining the American labor market and it's a vector for espionage and that this is a major problem. And there's a whole I can send you a tweet. There's this whole long massive list of things that they have done thus far on the H-1B thing. Ultimately, the executive can't end the H-1B program. Congress has to end the H-1B program. And we're not far enough along the timeline here where, we're still at the point in the timeline where you have to color within the lines. Yeah. We're not at the point where you can have the executive just unilaterally overrule.
You can just do things, but you can't just do all things.
He's not a king yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what they've done is they've released a series of different things where they're attacking the whole visa program from a bunch of different angles and essentially laying the groundwork for strangling it to death over the course of the next several year. They're essentially creating the pretext for where it's going to sunset itself naturally by either making it too costly or by investigating it and creating a bunch of bureaucratic baggage on it where it's just no longer economically feasible to do it.
You can demonstrate this with solid...
yes.
Every single thing that people are upset about, you can demonstrate the opposite.
But do you have to demonstrate it with a favorable bias to show how it could be a plan to overburden the system to get rid of H-1B, or is it undeniable there are no alternative interpretations of the executive and legislative nuance, all the stuff that I don't understand. You're saying that it's being postured.
I'm saying
so
that if you
it will
want to end the
suffocate for lack
H-1B
of-
program, if you want to just abolish the program, you can only do that through Congress. And right now, Trump does not have a real majority in Congress.
But he's doing some backdoor stuff, is what you're saying.
Yes.
And I'm asking if that backdoor stuff can be interpreted any differently than the way that you're interpreting it, which is a sort of medium-term scheme to suffocate the program and de facto put it down.
I'm saying that I think that is the only way that you could interpret it, yes.
Okay.
And also there are moves being made. Senator Jim Banks from, I think, Indiana, and Senator Eric Schmidt, who is a patriot of the highest order from Missouri, have both been hammering away at this and putting together legislation to actually end the H-1B program. We'll see if it can actually get through Congress. In order to get it through Congress, you would probably need a stronger majority in Congress, which is part of the reason why it's so counterproductive to abandon the project at where it is right now before the midterms, because all of this radical stuff that people want changed can only happen if it's overly abundantly clear that the political winds of inevitability are behind Trump and the Republican Party, and you have larger majorities in the House and the Senate. Like, that's the only way that you can get some of this really radical
So
stuff
for this
done.
whole first and second year, they're playing for votes still, even though it's the second term.
So I would say, to be devil's advocate
Yeah.
again, wouldn't it be more beneficial to have more of us fascistic types chimping out to drive the narrative that, hey, we hate this?
I think the way to do that, yes, I think the way to do that is not to chimp out at Trump, is to chimp out at Congress.
Okay.
On behalf of Trump. To say, like, very clearly Trump wants to do more, but he's being hamstrung by Congress. Yeah. Trump needs more power. Trump needs to be given more power. The executive needs to have the limiter taken off of it so it can actually accomplish this stuff, and it needs to have a Congress that's aligned with it to do this.
Okay.
With the Laura Ingraham interview, let me get through the points with the Laura Ingraham interview. So with the H-1B thing, if you listen to the entire clip, she asks him this question, which I think is very clearly a hostile, bad faith question from an ostensibly friendly interviewer, because, it's Fox, we're Republicans, and, I love Trump, I'm Laura Ingraham. But it's actually a very cleverly worded bad faith question. What he said is, we can't just eliminate all foreign workers altogether right now, because we have this problem of the United States has been deindustrialized, and there's a lot of this high-level specialized labor that has been offshored. These industries were taken away from us, like high-level precision manufacturing and all this sort of stuff has all been offshored, and it's been China and Taiwan and
you can die
North
from
Korea,
die from withdrawals from this particular drug. If I can just bring it back to obvious, that's the argument from Trump, right? Is saying, if you cut this thing cold turkey,
not quite. A little bit, but
fails.
What he's saying is that we don't have for particular high level like precision industries. We don't have the workforce right now that has the existing industrial know-how to do these jobs, because it was all outsourced over the last several years. So what we need is, he's going out, he's doing all these trade negotiations, and as part of those negotiations, he immediately gives the example of this Hyundai plant in Georgia just recently. South Korea commits $20 billion or something like that to building, to reindustrializing America, and as part of that, they're sending over South Koreans on work visas to come train American workers. And then there was a misunderstanding, and ICE went and rounded all of them up because the paperwork wasn't quite right, and it was a big scandal and everything. He's using this illustratively to say, what we do need is we need some foreign workers who have the knowledge, the know-how on these particular industries to come over here for a period of time, train American workers on these industries that have been taken away from America for the last several years. They're going to come here, they're going to train Americans, and then they're going to go home. And the next day, Scott Bessent came out and said said literally this. So everyone was really mad about this massive scandal of American companies hiring H-1B workers and forcing American workers to train their H-1B replacements before they're fired, which is obviously this is like a hang for treason sort of offense. Mm-hmm. What the Trump administration is saying is, our plan is to bring in H-1B workers to train their replacements and send them home. So now we're going to use foreign labor sponsored by foreign countries, paid for by foreign countries, to bring back this know-how to rapidly scale up these American industries that we haven't had. And like, if your whole complaint is we've had these industries taken away from us and our heartland has been hollowed out, there's lots of people who are like, you know, there's some 60-year-old guy who's the only person in the country who knows how to work this one particular precision machine that's really crucial to the electrical grid, or, you know, whatever. And he's going to die, and there's no one to replace him who has the industrial know-how. Mm-hmm. Trump is saying we are going to force foreign countries to subsidize the training of our domestic workforce so that we can end run this learning curve that we need to get to reindustrialize ourselves and then send them back again.
He said all that.
That's what he said.
But the chimps are saying, Trump's saying all the Americans are
Pajeets.
stupid, and we need Pajeets because they're better than us.
But really, he was saying we're going to build a wall to keep the Indians out, and India's going to pay for it.
Yes.
So, I want to get this out in the diaspora while it's fresh on my mind.
Yeah.
Related, but not on topic. Something I've been thinking about recently has been reparations for our disaffected minority group. I am willing.
White people?
Mm-hmm. Yes, but no. It helps white people in the long run. I'm willing to give reparations to the African American community in exchange for the vote back.
Like buying their vote from them?
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, that's what the Democrats have done. Why don't we?
Yes.
Yeah, but they still vote.
Mm.
So you can't vote if you receive reparations.
Yes.
If you want to stay in the country,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't get reparation.
Mm-hmm.
Bold.
I think like obviously restricting the franchise has to be a priority, and this is the sort of thing that's going to take, I think, a long time to bring about.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to make it happen is through things like that, where you make
Fork them.
Huh?
Bend them over and fork them.
Well, yeah, it's you make it transactional, and you make it transactional in a way that they just can't say no to it.
Yeah.
How do we get the 19th repealed?
You don't. You do it in the same way. So it's
Well,
one
you say that-
vote per household.
And
Yeah.
or you could say women can vote, but if they cast their vote, they can't drive.
Attention Patriot business owners. Are you sure you're getting the best deal from your credit card processor? It's time to look again. Introducing Rock Solid Merchant Services, the only choice for our guys. Rock Solid keeps you in compliance. Rock Solid never raises rates. Made by Patriots for Patriots. No bait and switch, no hidden fees, just a rock solid deal. Make the switch today and see for yourself. Call 615-785-7171. That's 615-785-7171. Or you can check them out in the partner section of the Goyim device. Why stay soft when you could be rock solid? Rock Solid Merchant Services.
The thing I was going to say about the 19th Amendment is, for any of these sorts of things, people want to repeal the 19th. They want to, fill in your really drastic, like, zeitgeist-altering policy. For any of those things, like, it doesn't matter whether I agree or disagree or whatever, I'm just objectively observing. To accomplish any of those things, you're going to need vastly more consolidated political power than currently exists. If you want, like, just to use the 19th as an example, the only way that you're going to abolish the 19th, if that's, again, not even weighing in on whether it's desirable or anything like that, just saying, if you want to abolish the 19th, you're going to need to get such a majority in Congress that you can actually amend the Constitution.
And doesn't it go without saying also that, here's evidence that it's not ready for that. It's so on its face. Like when I say, instead of saying repeal the 19th, let's say what it really is with all the shock. All the women that you know, of every walk of life, all the adult women, think of them all now. Everyone you went to college with, your mom, your girlfriend, past girlfriends, your sister, her friends. they are excommunicated from the political process permanently.
Think about how much happier they'd be.
Right, but that's in your. It's almost a meme to say repeal the 19th. It's so outlandish. So instead, we're sitting here having to walk the dog and be like, well, we don't have consolidated political. Like what you're saying, even if you had enough people in Congress, what you're ready for the social fallout.
Yeah, not only do you need to get that sufficiently not only do you need a sufficient majority in Congress to actually amend the Constitution in that way, you need to have a majority in Congress who is representative of a population that is willing to amend the Constitution that way.
Two things.
And the women have to put up with it.
We should get What If Alt Hus to do what would happen if the 19th was repealed in 2026.
If it just happened,
Like, in order for something like that to happen, you're going to need the normalization of that idea being seeded into the zeitgeist for probably 5 or 10 years at least.
Well, I was going to say, we keep talking about you would need political will, political power, whatever. What happens if you don't have that and you do try to do that?
It does shift the Overton window. I mean, think of
So,
how
like,
quickly the JQ exploded.
let's
Like,
pretend-
from being like a super niche.
Let's
well,
pretend
like,
Trump
to
went
everywhere
full
in,
blown
like, 4
everything
years.
that
Yeah.
all of the online autistsbergs want him to be. What happens? How does that fail? Is it he gets strung up by his toes by all the people
Well-
who are not ready
Well, I
for
think
it?
as long as you have elections, then I think as long as the boomer generation exists as a substantial electoral force, assuming you have elections, you're not going to get those sorts of things. Like those are just total political non-starters. If you think about the lobbyist
in a world
class,
where
the
it's not
consultant class,
elections,
the staffer class,
the
like
mob
all of these
takes
different
over.
groups, it's just like, if you want to accomplish those sorts of things, there's so many intermediate steps that you have to accomplish to get to that point, that people who are advocating for that sort of thing, people who are like, I want to see 100 million people deported, people who are like, I want to see Jews made second-class citizens, I want to see so and so list your person off hanged on the White House lawn. It's like, okay, great. Like, we may agree that I want to live in a state where those sorts of things happen, but if you want those things to happen, there's all of these intermediate steps that have to happen to get to that point, which means you need to be able to amass within the current system as it is. You need to amass the sort of political will sufficient to direct toward that end. Otherwise, you might as well say, like abolishing the 19th would be akin to like eliminating Congress. You're going to require, in the current state, you're going to require similar levels of political will to accomplish either of those.
So, I think this is where January 6th, a lot of right-wingers were kind of hoping that we would see Rubicon Dawn with some kind of like actual military coup, because you can bypass those systems with someone willing to essentially be a martyr for the cause. So you get Julius Caesar, who conquers Rome, and not a lot of people know this because Julius Caesar is like this mountain of a figure in history. He only served as emperor for 14 days.
Mm-hmm.
The Caesar project continued with his nephew, Augustus, who, because Caesar was so beloved by the people that they were rioting, the elites at the time said, well, we have no choice. We will set up Augustus in name only as a Caesar, but the people were so loyal to him that he had the political capital to capitalize on the martyrdom of Caesar. And so then you get, within a couple of weeks, those elites who handed him the power being crucified on the way up to the imperial palace. But yeah, if we don't have a person willing to martyr themselves on the cause of the autistic online right wing, we have to work within the confines of the system, or we're just going to keep waiting for some kind of strong man to show up who is willing to martyr himself.
Well, and everyone will use this phrase like, you don't know what time it is, or you got to know what time it is, or whatever. And when I hear that, I'm like, if you're saying that your win conditions are, pick whatever radical autistic online right wing win condition status thing is. Like, if you think that those things are plausible or conceivable in 2025, then you don't know what time it is. Like, you've insulated yourself in this little echo chamber.
People say
where
they don't know what time it is, and they mean a lot of people will say they don't, referring to other people, they don't know what time it is, and it's showing that they think that it's time for, like, getting your guns out and killing everyone.
Yeah.
Which means that they don't know what time it is.
Like
they think they're
we need
here,
another
but we're
J6.
here. But they're saying that people, whatever.
I think people drastically. What was the thing I read you guys in the car yesterday about? If you were to meet a new person every single minute, it would take you 95 years to meet 50 million people. And both Trump and Vance have both said that there's 50 million illegals in the country that need to be deported. The human mind can't comprehend how many people 50 million people is. If you saw a crowd of 50 million people in front of you, it would break your brain. You wouldn't, you can't conceive of that. This is where you get the Dunbar's number and everything. I've talked about this on my show. Like, how many people do you think are involved in the deportation of one person? How many, when you go from identifying the person, going out, locating them, grabbing them, bringing them back, processing them, transporting them, all of the... How many people do you think touch that single case? It's got to be, I don't know, 100, 200, if you're talking about the investigatory agents and the actual ICE agents that go out and grab them. You're going to probably have half a dozen people, half a dozen agents for each person that gets arrested, and then they have to be taken to a holding facility, and they have to go through judges, and they have lawyers, and they have all these different people. To deport 50 million people is going to require probably, if you wanted to deport 50 million people in 1 year, you're going to probably have 500 million people dedicated to the cause of deporting people.
I will say I did see recently that one of the things ICE is mulling over is the idea of opening up deportations to bounty hunters.
Yes.
And if that's the case, I will be the richest man you know.
Yes. I heard about. I have a friend who's closely connected with this process, and he told me about that about 6 months ago. He said that they're going to be getting contractors involved in this because this is something that I think it was from Tom Homan, and maybe even from Tom Homan directly, that this is something that they're looking at there because they're trying to maximize the resources that they have. But
right.
if your evaluation of the effectiveness of the Trump administration is, well, they haven't deported 50 million people in 10 months, you don't know what time it is. You don't realize the level of even if you didn't have bureaucratic obstructionism, even if you didn't have an entire judicial system, an entire bureaucracy that has decades of inertia baked against this, even if you didn't have that, you would be talking about deporting 50 million people in a year would be the largest single coordinated human project of all time. If that's your win condition, you don't know what time it is. You don't realize the magnitude of the problem that's in front of us. There are no easy shortcuts. There is no easy button, I just pull this lever and all the problems get magically fixed. This is either a long game for decades, or you might as well just, I don't know, check out and kill yourself. There's no... If you're seeing, oh, well, they've only... the foreign-born population is only decreased by 2.5 million this year, and so they're clearly not interested. I'm like, do you realize what it means to have the foreign-born population decrease by 2.5 million people in a year, particularly given the prevailing institutional inertia that has led to this point? That's actually a extraordinary accomplishment, and it's in large part the majority of people are self-deportations, which everyone wants to counter-signal the meme campaigns. But the meme campaigns are actually the reason why you get all this self-deportation, because people see an ICE agent roughing up some Mexican guy or something, and they're like, oh, I don't want to be subjected to that, I'm just going to leave. There's legal people who are like, I don't want to get caught up in the crossfire here. I'm just going to leave. So everyone's like, oh, they're just sending us memes and they're not doing anything. I'm like, the memes are why you're getting the bulk of the people leaving. That's the only way it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And those memes are probably going to hurt them electorally. Because there's still a lot of there's probably, I don't know, there's easily a supermajority of the population who is really squeamish about the idea of deporting people, even if they're here illegally.
Yeah.
So, like, anybody who wants to tell me that the administration isn't serious about mass deportations, I think you don't fully grok the magnitude of the problem as it is right now. Even though you think you're the radical who really is on the edge, I'm the calm, moderate, rational centrist who says things are so much worse than you think they are.
Yeah.
And they're so much better.
And they're so much better, yeah.
Well, I do think the like in Europe, like with the re-immigration campaigns going on in Ireland, France, I think they're kind of catching on in England a little bit with the population, at least.
Yeah.
But they have a much more violent immigrant population than we do.
Yep.
But they're a disarmed populace, so the immigrants know they can be violent and more parasitic. Not that ours aren't parasitic and violent, but not to the same degree as, say, London or Paris or something like that.
And just in terms of geographics, Europe is such a smaller area than America, which plays a part in this as well.
Right.
That, the number, the population density of the UK is something that very few Americans would be able to stomach, would be able to tolerate. Again, just highlighting that Americans are not Europeans.
Right.
This is two different species.
My wife's grandmother was a Hitler Youth, and she still has relatives in Austria, and they came to visit us this summer, and they were like, oh, we're going to drive down to Florida while we're here. No, you're not.
Yeah, right. Oh, we'll just do a quick afternoon trip down to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Like, how far is it? Like 5 hours? 19.
Right. And that's another thing that, like, Americans are used to being able to drive, like in Texas, you can drive for, if you start in El Paso and you drive to Houston, it's like, I don't know, 13 or 14 hours, and you're in one state, much less one country. That's these sorts of things that you grow up being around, being used to the fact that you can travel for days and still be within the same country, is just, it changes you as a people. It makes you just completely different psychologically than the others.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's, my commute is an hour and a half, and if they drove from their town in Salzburg, they would have crossed through Prague and into Italy.
Yeah.